$3.99 forever. Someone just asked me, how much you planning on charging for these plasma hunting tours? And it was almost an insult as soon as I heard it. But I realized they were just responding to something I had said. When I said first one's free, I was probably just, that's residual indoctrination from the culture we live in, creating urgency in the mind of the buyer. Free, limited time offer while supplies last. Probably me just trying to get someone, oh, free? Okay, I'll take you up on the offer. Because everyone loves free. Truth is, I couldn't pay people to learn what it is I'm trying to teach. Here at Snyder's University, tuition is free. And I've invested 3 years of my time, effort, energy, and resources. And that would cost me the line of credit that I have built over the last 3 years if I were to charge someone money. Money isn't worth anything. Also, I went to church today with the full intention of finding Bob Bailey in order that I could donate all of my pieces to the church. Particularly that one with the self-portrait of the termites. That one will probably be most appropriately delivered to the entomology department at BYU. Maybe even through Mark Belk. And if not him, maybe he knows who would be the right guy to go to. You know Mark, the guy who responded to me via email when I sent him a video of my dragon skull with the legs, and he sent me back and said, no, that's a catfish skull, dude. Didn't say where the legs come from. We'll talk about that another time. But I went into church, and this is what I mean by this is a better place to be. That's a map of the neighborhood along with everyone's names and numbers. Even Mormons in California probably can't go to their local church and get a ward roster. Of course, not everyone in their neighborhood is a Mormon, so they're not on the list. But even the Mormons are probably like, hell no, dude, don't put out my name and number and where I live. That's what I mean. The go along to get along order followers around here are a lot better than the go along to get along order followers that are signing those petitions to put us in concentration camps and these other places. And that's exactly what it is. And I know that's just rhetorical over-the-top rhetoric. Reducto ad Hitlerum, everything boils down to Hitler. Trump likes vanilla ice cream, Hitler likes vanilla ice cream, ergo Trump's like Hitler. And it's come to the point, people use that so often, it's like, okay, first one to reference Hitler loses the argument. There was only one Hitler, and if you have to use Hitler for part of your argument, you don't have a very good argument. But we're to the point where that no longer applies. Because when Mark Dice is getting these petitions signed by people saying, yeah, we just want to give these people a 30-day jail sentence if they say that Biden didn't legitimately win the election. Not online, no, around the water cooler at work, anywhere out in public. And these people are signing these petitions. The other petition he got people to sign was to jail the non-vaccinated. There's way too many non-vaccinated to jail them all. You would have to create a special facility like a concentration camp to get all those non-vaccinated people concentrated into one area. So the Hitler reference is no longer invalid. That's why when Laura's like, well, come on now, we can't tell them they're not allowed in our facilities. Wouldn't that make us no better than them? 2 wrongs don't make a right. No, that's not what time it is. But my point is, there'll never be a fee charged. And probably the only reason I said first one's free of charge was to create urgency in the mind of the buyer to try and get anyone out there to go with me. First one's scheduled tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. I'm scheduled to meet with a guy at the hot springs. But he's a guy who's contacted me before. He's from right here in Provo, and he probably just wanted to get together and have lunch and shoot the breeze. He probably knows exactly where to go. He may have already been out there and looked himself. And to that extent, I was thinking, well, I don't want to hold someone's hand if they don't want to go look for themselves and they know right where to go. What do you need me to go with you for? Like the song says, I'll read to you here, save your eyes. You'll need them, your boat is at sea. Your anchor is up, you've been swept away. And the greatest of teachers won't hesitate to leave you there by yourself, change your faith and said, I alone love you, I alone tempt you. That means there's one source that loves you and tempts you, not 2 different sources. And this is what Greg Braden was talking about in Beyond 0 Point, the collective initiation. That's the spiritual side of his whole presentation. Awakening to 0 point is all the technical knowledge about Schumann cavity resonance and magnetics and all that. Pole shift. Beyond 0 point, the collective initiation is the spiritual side of his presentation. And he talks about there being one source of all creation and one force guiding all action. One source of all that you may ever experience or witness in your life. And a lot of people say, yeah, I believe in that. I believe in one source. Until something happens to challenge that idea, and then they go, no, that was something else. Like when I told Daniel, God sent me that money back. And I'm sure he'd be like, no, that wasn't God's will. That was something else. So, back to my original point. I'm donating all my pieces to the church. Because if they're left here, say I go on deployment, or just something happens to me, they will be left in the hands of people that don't appreciate them the way I do. So much so that a while back, my mom, bless her heart, she knows not what she does. She was probably trying to compliment me when she said, you could probably put those out on a blanket out front. Someone would probably buy them off you. Someone would probably offer you something for them. And that, again, was one of the most insulting things I've ever heard. It's about like saying your daughter, you can put your daughter out there on the corner, dress her up in the right clothes, and someone would probably offer you something for her. See, to me, these are like my pets, right? I care for them, and I appreciate them, and I value them, and I see the beauty in them in ways that these people don't. And by giving them to the church, it will ensure, even after I'm gone and, Bob's gone, and the institution itself will remain. And they will be able to be deposited as a wealth of knowledge into this economic growth cycle of learning and perpetuate for posterity into the future in a way that they won't be able to if I just leave them here. What good are they doing anyone sitting here in my living room? Because I'm way ahead of my time, it might be more appropriate to deposit them in the basement of the art museum rather than in the public display section. And that way, by invitation only, people can go down there and see them for themselves. But a market space is the general public's perception of the value of something, not the actual value of it. And at this point, the general public's perception of the value of these are like, what the hell would I want those for? What do I want your burnt pieces of wood for? So if they will accept them, I want to give them all of my pieces, including the one that needs to go to the entomology department at BYU to show that these termites have a level of self-awareness and sentience, consciousness, beyond which anyone ever really gives them credit for. Because that termite carving, all 5 of them, including the 2 that are pretty much mirror images, are like the Nazca lines in Peru, where they were, drawing these lines in the dirt, trying to talk to the gods. Those lines, those images of those termites carved, indicate that these insects have a level of self-awareness probably beyond what many humans do. But it indicates they are self-aware if they can draw pictures of themselves. That's a level of consciousness no one really thinks of a bug having. So that one goes to the entomology department. The rest of these, Bob said he thinks they're beautiful. He said those are going to be beautiful once they're finished. So he sees the beauty in them. But they're not only artistic, they are science and history. But right now, they're current events. In the future, looking back, they'll be history. And by then, anyway, who knows what will be happening by then. They're also science. They encapsulate the science of how this fire burns. So they might appropriately belong at an art museum, a science museum, or a history museum. But right now, probably in the basement of those museums, because general public they don't want to see it. That's why it shouldn't be on public display in a museum, because it's on display all around us and no one can see it because they don't want to. Like I said, I couldn't pay people to come learn what I'm trying to teach them. So when someone asks me how much you're going to charge for one of these tours, it's like, charge? Fuck, I can pay people to come with me. Maybe I was just trying to create urgency in the mind of the buyer because I do need some friends and it would be nice to have someone to shoot the breeze with. But there will be no charge, no service fee I've already invested 3 years of my time, effort, energy, and resources, and that would detract from the line of credit that I've built. God money. And I got a large line of credit coming out my ears from the last 3 years that I've deposited my own time, effort, energy, and resources into this. That to start charging someone money at this point would just, that it's like I responded to her saying, that thought hasn't even crossed my mind. Someone asked to buy one of my pieces, and I said, no, I can't sell you one of my pieces. What, for money? For those Babylonian magic squares? Those ain't worth shit. And the Spirit told me not to break up the set, keep them all together. They're worth more together rather than one piece or two piece in the possession of a person. To have all of them together creates a wealth of knowledge that compounds. So there will be no fee charged. And I just wanted to clarify that. Free 99. I couldn't pay people to learn what it is I'm trying to teach. And so that's one other benefit of making this video is when I try and give these to Bob, they're kind of like a white elephant gift. Who the hell wants your burnt pieces of wood? Those just take up space to the average person. But Bob said he sees the beauty in them. So Bob might appreciate them the way I do. And like when you're giving away a pet, free to a good home. Because you want to know that whoever you're giving this to cares about it and appreciates it and cherishes it the way that you do. And if I leave them here in this house, they'll end up in the hands of people who are like, you'd probably put them out in the yard and sell them. And someone might offer you something for them. I don't want these in the hands of someone who, oh yeah, I bought it at a yard sale because I thought it looked cool. And then a year or two later, they're moving and they're like, I don't want to bother packing that with me. Just throw it in the dumpster. I thought it looked cool at the time, but it's just a burnt piece of wood. They don't understand the value in it. They don't see the beauty in it. And so I want to make sure these are in the hands of someone who does appreciate what there is and what these pieces are beyond just a burnt piece of wood. And so I'm going to skip around here and tell you about a couple of new pages that I came across. Someone referred me to Suvi Bird. And someone mentioned her to me a long time ago, and because I remember her name. But the video that I watched today, and I've only watched about 80% of it, but I'm going to include the link in the description. It's Plasma Truth, The Phoenix Rises. And just for a little prelude to one of my next videos where I'm going to go over some gravy after I flip the phone around to where I can film phone to phone, because I can't do that while I'm in the middle of a video. Jesus said, I have cast fire upon the world, and see, I am watching over it until it blazes. The Gospel of Thomas. Luke 12:49. I came to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already set ablaze. So we'll just leave that for now and let you know that I got some major gravy coming up. And major gravy, we'll just leave it at that. I can squeeze this giblet into the gravy. Poles Apart is the name of this, if it'll show. Poles Apart is the name of this song by Pink Floyd. And you can see how it's referencing, got some sort of thing going on there. Anyway, it's referencing the two sides of you. The good wolf, the bad wolf, the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other, the two hemispheres of the right and left hemisphere, the masculine and the feminine, polar opposites, P-O-L-E-S, not P-U-L-L-S, P-O-L-E-S, as in positive and negative poles, north and south pole. And you can see the image here. If you cover up the side, it looks like one face. If you covered up both sides and the top of this, it would look like one face. And it looks exactly like those images in the Tool music videos, where it's like three faces made out of one. There you go. You can kind of see how it actually looks like one face until you see the part in the middle and it's actually two faces. And the name of the song is Poles, P-O-L-E-S, Apart. Here's a painting by Alex Gray called Pulling Apart, and he says it's a self-portrait that he painted when he was 18. Alex Gray is who paints all of the art within the Tool music videos of those dual faces that are just like what Pink Floyd has just illustrated. This is all relating to the two parts of you, the two yous. I've made a video on the two yous. That's what this is all about. I'll include the link in the description for the two yous, just for those who didn't see it. And here's an example of the Tool music video images that are all over, and it blurs it out when I get it close like that because for whatever reason it won't focus up close. I was hoping maybe if I blocked my ugly mug out, but you can see how it's one face made out of three faces, one facing right towards you, one towards the right and the left, and on each side of it you can see those two skulls pointing inwards. All throughout the Tool music videos, this is the same image depicted over and over and over, like hallways of faces that are all joined and converged and merged, but it's all a reference to the two yous. That people are starting to merge the right and left hemisphere, the masculine and feminine. Like as depicted in my previous video regarding Bad Wolf by AWOL Nation. And so back to giving away my pieces in order that they go to, free to a good home, to someone who will appreciate them. This way, if I need to, and he's like, no, I couldn't take that from you, I'll be like, I already said it. Don't make me a liar. Don't make a liar out of me. I could just go right down to the Deseret Industry. I think they make you make an appointment to make a donation these days. I could just pack them all down there. But that might not be the best way to go about it. So I'm going to hook up with Bob and see if he knows who might want to receive these for posterity. Maybe stash them somewhere where I can go visit them every now and then, Probably take the one with the self-portrait of the termites down to BYU, to the entomology department, and maybe even just cut out that part that has the termite images in it for easier presentation. That way you don't have to pack around the whole tree, and that way you don't have to have two subjects that you're looking at simultaneously, the plasma fire burnt tree and the level of consciousness displayed by these termites that shows self-awareness that they are sentient beings. Here's another gravy giblet. I'll just throw in this one to get it off my tray. 5 minutes into the song, Fear Inoculum by Tool, which I've referenced plenty of times. That's what the whole COVID program is, a fear inoculum. It says mitosis, which is a cell division, which is what Vanessa VA talks about. She calls this consciousness farm, where I said we're going to be separating into different petri dishes of those who are of a like-minded consciousness that resonates with our own. Like a mitosis, like cell division. The fear inoculum is referring to this process. On the cover of their new album that's titled Fear Inoculum, there's a song called Fear Inoculum within the album called Fear Inoculum that just came out last year. On the cover, people notice that the way they spell the name Tool, you take one side, flip it over to the other, and it makes a syringe. I say utilize it, don't analyze it. When it comes to religion or this process that's happening around us now, because in a lot of ways you can see that this is going somewhere good. Even Matt in one of his videos says that he polled his audience, and all of his audience says, yeah, I wouldn't go back to before 2019. Which means that we are, by definition, in a better place than we were. By what definition is that? Why are these people saying, I wouldn't go back? Because there's a whole new breed of truthers out there. There's millions and millions of new baby truthers that just got born from this process. That's a good thing. That's why people say I wouldn't go back. Because now the rest of the sheep have woken up to realize, oh, maybe the truthers were right. A vehicle, you don't need to know the inner workings of how the engine works. All you need to know is, does it take you the place you want to go and to operate the pedals and the wheel and the gears? You don't need to know what happens in between the input and the output. The input, you push the accelerator, it speeds up. That's the output, is speeding up. You push the brake as an input, and the output is that it slows down. You turn the wheel as your input, and the output is that it curves your car. In a religion, judge them by their fruits. You don't need to know all the details and the inner workings of the doctrine, and that's what is going to be one of my next upcoming videos. I'm glad I didn't get all that data points, because as I said, people with college degrees and a lot of scriptural knowledge are going to have the hardest time processing through this transition period, because they get hung up on all that stuff they think they know, because they want to know the inner workings of how the car works. You don't need to know what happens between the point where you push the gas and the car goes forward, or when you push the brake and how the car slows down. Utilize it. Don't analyze it, or you'll get hung up. And you'll never be able to get where you're going and use this vehicle. So this COVID process is taking us somewhere that's good. People can start to see that. They're scared. They want to overanalyze everything and try and second guess and predict where it's going. But overall, it's going in a good direction. There are a lot of positive things coming out of this. The consciousness farm is being filtered. So utilize it, don't analyze it. And I would say the same thing for religion. This is the product of the vehicle of Mormonism. Those are the names and phone numbers of everyone. And you see right here, Schnackenbergs. That's us right there on the corner. So from my house, I can look at any house around here. And there's the extension. It goes off over here into a cul-de-sac. But that's the whole ward we live in, Spring Creek, 6th Ward. It's not some deep secret fucking only the insiders of the secret society Luciferian backroom deals of shady, shadowy people get to know this stuff. You don't have to be an insider to be able to receive the fruits and the benefits of the culture and the community that is produced by this religion. Just simply by being here, you get to benefit from the culture within this petri dish that is created, the culture of consciousness, which is underlying priorities, principles that results in standards of behavior. And only because of the standards of behavior that people around here exhibit are people willing to put their name and number and address out on a map for anyone to have a list of. Do you know anywhere else where you get such a culture that results in such standards of behavior, that instills such confidence and trust and camaraderie amongst neighbors? That's the fruits. That's where that vehicle takes you. Oh, but what about their doctrine and the dogma and the details of the inner workings of how it works? Don't analyze it, utilize it. It's a vehicle, and it takes you somewhere good. Long before this COVID crap kicked in, I realized through truck driving, the more places I go, the more I like Utah. Just saying. This one's just for the people that have been watching my channel for a long time. Before I left to Missouri, my friend who paints pictures, she paints, and she's the one who told me about the muse that comes through the artists. She's the one that gave it that name, and that's the reason I named it that. About the spirit that comes through these artists, the muse they call it, and that they'll go into a deep depression when they can no longer access the muse. Because they can still paint and run the brush, but they can't produce the type of art they were able to when the muse comes through them. And she was at her house last time I saw her. This was before I went to Missouri, and I've told this story before, so some people will remember. And I was trying to tell her all this stuff that I've been receiving and knowing and understanding now. At the time, we were just talking, and she's like, oh crap, I need to grab a brush, it's here. She grabs her paintbrush and starts painting. And at one, she's like, tell me if my eyes look different. Some people tell me my eyes look dead when the muse is with me. I was like, no, don't look any different to me. She's like, I can't even see you right now. Like I'm sitting this far away from you, and I can't even see you right now. And then when she starts to paint using the muse, she doesn't know what she's painting until it comes out on the page. So she's like, oh crap, where's my brush? And she starts painting while I'm trying to tell her this stuff that's revelatory. So I'm trying to talk to her while she's distracted painting. And then she's like, crap, it went away. It went away. And she gets all bummed. I was like, it's because you're supposed to be listening to me. No, it's not. I said, okay, and I left right then. But before that, she said, what does all this even matter? Why do I care? What does any of this matter? I said, so the next time there's a witch hunt, we don't get burned at the stake. If I said all the things I've been saying just a couple 100 years ago, I would be burned at the stake. She said, there's never going to be any more witch hunts. Here we are, smack in the middle of the witch hunt. That she said would never come again. That I said was the reason you need to pay attention. Some will remember that video and go, oh yeah. Witchfinder General. James True has mentioned and the correlations between the witch hunts and the COVIDs in his most recent video and in previous videos, so much so that in his most recent video when he's leading up to it, I said, Witchfinder General, before he even said it. He was saying something about how it was like a lead into that statement of there used to be something similar to, and I was like, Witchfinder General. And then he says Witchfinder General, which would be Fauci. So we're smack in the middle of that witch hunt that I told her is the reason why you need to pay attention to this. Well, guess what? She caught COVID. I called her a couple times since I got back. And the first time she's like, oh, I got COVID. I think she really did. Something put her in the hospital. And she said it like, oh, almost killed her. So she's a true believer. And then I call her like 6 months later and she's still telling me, oh no, I still got COVID. My point is, the witch hunt has arrived. The witch hunt that just before I went to Missouri, I was trying to explain to her some things that matter, but it was more important to her to paint. I told her that's because you're supposed to be listening to me. No, it's not. Okay, I'm out of here. Before that, when she asked, what does any of this even matter? I told her because at the next witch hunt, in order that you and I don't get burned at the stake, there won't ever be any more witch hunts. To that, I will include once again the link to my video titled Fiery Sermon from the Valley of the Shadow, where I talk about how we're sinking this ship. And you might just want to watch. It's got some interesting commentary while I'm going through and showing you not just plasma fire, but in a very special plasma fire where it blew holes around the bottoms of the trees. Oh yeah. And since the sigil magic on the inside of my coat from the last video, two things. Maybe Mormon magic underwear isn't so funny after all. You know, the Mormon magic underwear, the garments they wear that used to have the square and the compass, the shape of them, embroidered right into the cloth. For those of you that know about the garments, people call them magic underwear because they believe that it will protect them. Maybe that's a form of sigil magic. And maybe it's not so funny after all. But on that, someone said something about my mom's greater understanding and shit. I was like, no, that don't apply. She disappeared that coat. What, because she thought the little pictures on the inside of my coat had me under some mind control influence? Some spell? What, more so than the implant you allowed to be put into my head of a microchip? She don't believe in sigil magic. She don't believe in the spirit world. She knows damn well microchips these days can be used for anything under the sun. There's 1,000,001 effects it could be having on someone. Presumably it's just a RFID. But she would rather, I'll do something to help. She wants to feel like she did something to help rather than doing the hard work of admitting what she knows about the microchip implanted in my head, which is far more likely to have some effect on me in the area of mind control and put me under some sort of spell or trance than little pictures drawn on the inside of my coat. But that was her supplement Instead of taking the high road, that was her easy way out. Oh, I'll just take this coat from him. That's probably what's affecting him. Yeah, it ain't the microchip in his head that he found at the beginning of all this. No, it's these little pictures drawn on the inside of his coat. I'll put subdermal implant recap summary, part 1 and 2, in the description for those who don't know. But again, that's another example of people who want to feel like they did something to help, and people who actually want to do something. And that doing something would require a lot more calories for her to burn than it would to just take this way out and say, feel like, hey, I'm saving him. Just for those who don't know, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the recap story, but when I found my implant, I went up there and started asking questions about when we were born in Japan, myself and my sister on the Air Force Base in Yokota, Japan. Before I told her what I found, just asking questions like, were we on base or were we in Tokyo or Yokota? Oh, well, the hospital was in Tokyo, but the air base is in Yokota. Oh, okay. And you mentioned a couple of neighbors that we had, da-da-da-da-da. I just start asking questions. Before she knows why I'm asking the question, she tells me the doctor's name was Cabal. Dr. Cabal. Do you think his name was really Dr. Cabal? Yeah, it was a Hawaiian guy, she says, like Khabul or something like that. It's a Hawaiian name. Dr. Cabal. Like code names? The president has a code name, his wife has a code name. Code name. You think his name was really Dr. Cabal? Looking back, I can smile, and we've enjoyed the last couple of years with each other. Until just a couple of weeks ago when she tried to rape my witness for the last time. We've been able to sit in the same room and laugh and enjoy each other's company in a way that shows I've totally let it go. Not like there's this underlying thing just beneath the surface that makes conversation awkward. They enjoy their lives more on the weekend when I come home and have a couple laughs than they do during the week when I'm out on the road and they're totally miserable. Well, how do you know how they are when you're not there? Because they're never in a good mood when I enter the room, and after a few minutes their level rises. And to end this on a high note, but for the grace of God, there go I further down that spiral that I was on that would have led to my own suicide. When I was relieved, I didn't let it go. I had it taken away from me, all those negative feelings, in 3 seconds. And I had been marinating and ruminating on these things for months. And then within 3 seconds, those feelings went away. When I said, I guess I'll go tell my story before I take myself out. And by tell my story, I meant take this Icon X-Acto knife right here and go pop it out like a zit. It's right there beneath the surface. And in 3 seconds, those feelings disappeared. I've had strong feelings about a lot of things in my life, and it usually takes you a minute to think about it a little differently and then feel about it a little differently, and eventually you feel different. And when it's something that strong, feelings that strong, that I'm going to kill myself over it, there's no way those feelings, I decided and thought my way out of it. I was given relief. But for the grace of God, there go I, further down that path that I was that close to the end of. So God's real. In telling my story before I go, I was going to do for others what they can't do for themselves, and that's provide the proof of the microchipping program that's been in effect for decades. Since then, I've been given a lot more story to tell, and we haven't even hit that episode yet. Not to mention I know 3 other people with an implant right there. Dusty Mott, Amber Pruce, and my sister, and myself. Dusty happens to live a few houses